Hey everybody, it's Hawk here, and today we're going to talk about shadows. Now, shadows appear in D&D, and things that are basically shadows appear in a great many other things. So let's just explain what the heck a shadow is in the first place. It's quite literally just an animated patch of darkness, in its most basic form. They usually wind up being humanoid looking, but that's of course not a rule. It doesn't have to, it's literally a blob of animated shadow. In D&D, they are absolutely notorious because they're CR2, if I remember correctly, and at level 2, you are wealth by level. This is of course going, if you follow the base book here, you won't have a magic weapon. The problem is, it's incorporeal. If you don't have a magic weapon, you can't do anything, and it has too much HP for you to expect that your average spellcaster is going to be able to have enough magic missiles to shoot it. Even a sorcerer who has a lot of them will not probably, based on average rolls of magic missile, won't do enough damage in order to take the thing out. Which means it'll probably TPK the party. Now, how does it do that? Well, it has a draining touch. It does strength drainage. No, I didn't screw that up. I said drainage because, on the one hand, it's not damage because when you go to 0 strength, you die. Which is not what damage does, it just cripples you. On the other hand, it's not drain because it's not permanent. It does heal itself normally. You don't need any magical assistance there. So once your strength hits 0, you die and you rise as a shadow later. Now, these things are particularly annoying because, as I said, they're already incorporeal. That's bad enough. They do strength damage that has a weird kill thing on it. I don't particularly like that. I usually change that so they're actually usable in my opinion, but that's a me thing. But those two combined together, plus the fact that it is literal animated shadow, makes it really easy for it to hide. So it can literally just ghost into a wall here. And that's the thing, they're not stupid. They're not geniuses either, but they are intelligent after a fashion. Meaning, having one sit in the wall with just its face exposed, swinging its arm at you, is entirely legitimate. Because not only is it going to have the mischance, even if you have a magic weapon, so there's a shadow attacking me out of the wall, I can swing at it with my magical axe of doom here. Now, not only do I have the 50% chance to miss because it's incorporeal and this is not a ghost touch axe, but I now have the 50% chance because it's a wall. See, those aren't actually the same effects either. That's the problem here. Those are two different things happening at once. One is a mischance because it's in a wall. It's normal concealment chance. The other one is the fact that my weapon only has a 50% chance to actually affect it as I swing through it. So stacking defenses is a pain in the rear end. Then, of course, they also go after your touch AC because armor means nothing. They'll just poke you and bleh, now you're a cripple. So, those are D&D shadows. Then you get to greater shadows, which are literally just a shadow just cranked up to 11 because it's just worse. Now, Deadlands has something that is very much a shadow. It's called a night haunt. Now, a night haunt is just a patch of animated shadow, and what it does is it follows people until they set up camp. Now, once you set up camp, its entire goal is to lure away the camp guard, preferably without them waking anyone. Once you're far enough away, it attacks you, kills you, and then devours your soul. Yes, this is the first time we actually have a creature on Why It Sucks to Be an Adventurer that actually explicitly eats your soul. I haven't talked about other stuff that does it, because they're usually a little more well-known, mostly because they eat your soul, and everyone kind of wants to know about that. So, the soul nomming, of course, after you die, and then nothing else happens after that. You don't rise. You cannot become a herald, though, which is a Deadlands undead thing. It's not actually bad. Some quotes on that. It's neutral, I guess, because you're still you. So there's an upside, I guess. You know what? I can talk about that. I should just make a video talking about the herald because they're weird. But anyway, so you can't rise from the dead once that happens because you don't have a soul anymore, which is a problem. Now, there's a thing called a night horror, which is, and as you would expect, an up-gunned night haunt. Now, it's basically just a bigger, nastier night haunt, except it now has a couple of extra abilities. One of its extra abilities is the fact that it can now lure you, not just by mimicry as the Night Haunt does by just, imitating all sorts of random crap, trying to get you to come out and investigate before it eats your soul. This thing can plant a suggestion in your head, and then you can walk on out like an idiot, like it's a horror film. Basically, it applies horror film logic, which is a problem because you never want horror film logic being applied to you because that means you act like an idiot. So, after it does that, it goes through the normal process of killing you, numbing your soul, and then you turn into a Night Haunt the next night. Though it's not really you anymore, let's be honest. A new Night Haunt is created, is probably the better way to put this. Now, beyond that, it also has a secondary ability where it can weaken itself for the rest of the night to summon a bunch of tentacles. Yes, it basically casts Everard's black tentacles, and it's really, really bad. So all these nasty shadow tentacles come out and start beating the crap out of you. Really, it does that so it can run, because it doesn't want to weaken itself if it's hunting. So its goal is, if it gets busted, it'll summon that and then run. Now, Night Haunts in particular are particularly bad because, of course, you can only affect them with magic, because they are incorporeal. That's actually it remains in Deadlands as well as D&D. The issue is Deadlands has a much larger magic scarcity. Now, some mad science stuff will apply. My favorite thing, the Tesla cannon. It's not an actual item, it's just what I call any lightning gun. The Tesla gun will work because it is magic, but not magic. Basically, you're shooting a bolt of lightning at it. That should work fine. But for those of us schmucks who do not have access to magic because we're not hucksters, sorcerers, etc., how do you deal with Night Haunts? Now, this does not work on shadows. I must point that out. Those shadows have other weaknesses themselves. Basically, what you can do is you can hit them with a bright light and it hurts them and then they get the hell out of there. So you can thrust a lantern in their face or something. So that's how us mundane schmucks do it. In the case of shadows, they just don't like bright light. It's not good for them, so they just don't like it. So dropping daylight should solve that problem pretty well. In a nice brisk fashion. Now, beyond these two, how do you kill these things? Or just shadows in general, because frankly, there's more than just these two basic groups. And they all have comparable traits. Mostly the incorporeality, the fact that they generally can rip you apart even though you can't touch them, and generally they're devious, sneaky little buggers. Because honestly, D&D shadows can totally do the mimicry trick too. They just don't. I mean, it would just be them having the bluff skill, and they are intelligent, so they can have the bluff skill. It's just not by default. So, it'd be one choosing to go down this path. In any event, how do you deal with it beyond that? Light. Light is always good. I'm not gonna knock light. Lanterns are not terribly helpful against shadows in D&D, but they work wonders against Night Haunts and Night Horrors. Dropping daylight is wonderful. I mean, if you were to bring Night Haunts and Night Horrors into D&D, daylight would suck, because that's really bad for them, because it's actual daylight. Various other things of that nature. Basically, just really bright light is generally helpful, because even if it doesn't hurt them, shadows generally don't like it, and will attempt to avoid it whenever possible. So they'll try to leave, because it makes them really obvious. Now, any other thing you can do to make them really obvious? In D&D, this would be glitter dust or fairy fire or a spell similar to that, which would means they can't hide, because they'll take a negative 40 to frickin' hide with most of these, or other obnoxious penalties to hiding, because now they're all sparkly and glowy like they just walked through a frickin' strip club. Just covered in glitter, or other various things. Basically, it's just make them really obvious and easy to see. Now, dealing with them beyond that is actually a pain in the rear end, as I said. If this is not magic, this will do literally nothing. Now, if it is magic, it will do something half the time. What you want is a true death crystal, because that makes you actually able to hit undead, or incorporeal undead. It's quite nice, actually. Now, you might want to just go the whole route on that one, because a true death crystal all the way up in D&D is quite nice. Deadlands doesn't have anything by name, but honestly, the way Deadlands magic works, there's nothing saying you wouldn't be able to get maybe runes or something inscribed in your weapon blessed by a blessed, ironically. Have one of the blessed, toss some stuff on your weapon for you. That'll help. Usually it's temporary, but, it's helpful enough. You could probably just have like a Catholic priest or someone actually bless your bullets if you happen to be using a gun, which you probably are, because it is Deadlands. So that'll work. There are, of course, magical artifacts. They usually have some sort of negative to them, but they usually have a very nice positive as well. It's a bit of give and take on you figure out yourself. Beyond that, as I said, hit them with light. It's always good. Have your local huckster hit them with any sort of magic they have. That's always helpful. Having a huckster hang around is generally nice too. Other than that, the True Death Crystal and the Ghost Touching shenanigans and any comparable effect in any other game, you don't have a whole lot of options against these things. They usually fly faster than you can walk, and yes, they do fly because they're not corporeal, so they don't walk. Pretty much everything incorporeal flies, it more accurately floats. But they're generally faster than you, and even then, they can just go through the wall, whereas you can't go through the wall unless you're the Kool-Aid Man, and even then, they're doing it faster than you are, so they're going to probably outrun you, and then just harass you until you keel over and die. Which sucks, and that's kind of what we're trying to avoid here. So basically, your solutions to this are, you have to be prepped or you're screwed. Oh, I almost forgot holy water. Holy water always works. And you should always have a couple vials on you. Because, worst case scenario, if you run into one, you can pull up the vial and then toss it in its face. A la Supernatural. Just flick it in their face and that'll work. Usually. Night in Deadlands, probably. It's a little more involved blessing items in there, but holy water will work there too. Beating in the face with a torch will work. That won't work in D&D because they're not as cripplingly weak to it, but it might make them go away. And as I said, light is your light's your friend, ghost touch is your friend, those sorts of things. If you don't have those, I'm sorry, you're probably hosed. Am I thinking anything else? Am I missing anything else? No, I am not. That's pretty much how you beat those things. Oh, I did. Get a cleric or a spirit shaman in the case of D&D. Because that's turn undead and spirit channeling, both of which don't do the same thing, but a cleric can probably turn a shadow, at the very least make it run away from you. You may not kill it, they may not kill it, but make it go away. Whereas the spirit shaman can just beat the crap out of it with spirit channeling, and that'll suck a lot for it. Great for you, though, and spirit shamans are a lot of fun to hang out with. They're druids. Spontaneous druids. A lot of fun. No wild shaping, sadly, but they do get the nifty spirit thing, which helps you deal with all sorts of horrendous incorporeal stuff. So, if you think you're going to run into a shadow, grab either a priest or the druid's spiritual buddy, because they're really helpful. Other than that, you're probably hosed. If you get ganked by a shadow and you're not prepped, you're dead. I'm just going to be blunt here. If you don't have any of the things I mentioned, you're probably dead because unless you can get outside before it kills you. Because that's kind of your last resort. And even then, it might decide to follow you. Probably not, but it might decide to follow you. Which means when you get back to town, be sure to go talk to a priest. Because if it's the middle of the day, it might just follow you underground, occasionally bouncing out like a frickin' whale breaching or something. But that's all there is to shadows and other denizens of the dark. Hit them with light, and everything will be good. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Remember to like, share, subscribe, ring the notification bell. I will see you all later. Peace out.